At that time, the Bodhisattva Manjushri addressed the Buddha and said, "World-honored one, how should one understand the arising of the thinking of all Tathagatas?" The Buddha answered the Bodhisattva Manjushri and said, "Good son, a Tathagata is not to be described as having arisen from mind, thinking, and consciousness. Rather, all Tathagatas arise from a mental state of effortlessness. You should understand them to be magical creations." The Bodhisattva Manjushri addressed the Buddha and said, "World-honored one, the Dharma body of all Tathagatas is apart from all effort. If it is apart from all such effort, then how does it engender any thinking at all?" The Buddha answered the Bodhisattva Manjushri and said, "Good son, because of the force of the effort whereby they have previously cultivated the wisdom of skillful methods, they do give rise to thinking. It is just as one needs no effort to wake up after a deep, thoughtless sleep, for one awakens because of the force of efforts previously expended. Or it is similar to one who needs no effort to arise from the concentration of stopping all thought, for he returns to everyday thinking because of the force of his previous efforts. Just as one produces thoughts when one leaves sleep or the concentration of stopping thought, so a Tathagata produces thoughts because of the force of the wisdom of skillful methods he has previously cultivated." The Bodhisattva Manjushri addressed the Buddha and said, "World-honored one, in this case, should the transformation body of a Tathagata be described as thinking or not?" The Buddha answered the Bodhisattva Manjushri and said, "Good son, it can be described neither as thinking nor as non-thinking. This is so because it does not have any independent thinking, but it does have thinking dependent upon others." The Bodhisattva Manjushri addressed the Buddha and said, "World-honored one, is there any difference between the field of a Tathagata and the sphere of a Tathagata?" The Buddha answered the Bodhisattva Manjushri and said, "Good son, the field of a Tathagata refers to pure Buddha lands adorned with that assembly of incalculable good qualities common to all Tathagatas. The sphere of a Tathagata refers to the 5 different kinds of realms known by a Tathagata: sentient beings, the surrounding world, doctrine, discipline, and skillful methods of discipline. This is the difference between the two." The Bodhisattva Manjushri addressed the Buddha and said, "World-honored one, what are the characteristics of the supreme awakening of a Tathagata, of his turning of the wheel of doctrine, of his entering into cessation?" The Buddha answered the Bodhisattva Manjushri and said, "Good son, these 3 are characterized by non-duality. That is to say, there is no perfect awakening nor any absence of perfect awakening. There is no turning of the wheel of doctrine nor absence of turning the wheel of doctrine. There is no entering into cessation nor absence of entering into cessation. This is so because of the ultimate purity of the Dharma body of Tathagatas, and because of the constant manifestation of the transformation bodies of Tathagatas." The Bodhisattva Manjushri addressed the Buddha and said, "World-honored one, all varieties of sentient beings gain merit in seeing those transformation bodies, in hearing them and revering them. What kind of causality does a Tathagata exercise in their regard?" The Buddha answered the Bodhisattva Manjushri and said, "Good son, the causality of a Tathagata in their regard is that of a dominant objective condition, for those transformation bodies are sustained through the power of the Tathagatas." The Bodhisattva Manjushri addressed the Buddha and said, "World-honored one, how is it that, without any effort, the Dharma body of Tathagatas emits great light for sentient beings, and sends forth images of unlimited transformation bodies, while the liberation bodies of word-hearers and solitary enlightened ones do not do so?" The Buddha answered the Bodhisattva Manjushri and said, "Good son, It is similar to the fact that the water and fire crystals that come from the disk of the moon and the sun emit a great light without any effort. But other water and fire crystals do not do so, for the sun and moon crystals are formed because they are sustained upon the august creative powers of sentient beings, because of the dominant force of the actions of sentient beings. Or it is similar to the fact that a mani jewel crafted by a master craftsman emits the images inscribed upon it, whereas one not so crafted does not. In this manner, therefore, the Dharma body of Tathagatas, polished and perfected through the intense cultivation of the wisdom of methods in the unlimited reality realm, is able to emit from itself great light and images of various transformation bodies. But that does not occur with the liberation bodies of others. The Bodhisattva Manjushri addressed the Buddha and said, "World-honored one, as you have explained, sentient beings in the world of desire are led to be born among the noble families of warriors and Brahmins because they are sustained by the august powers of Tathagatas and Bodhisattvas. In their physical and material well-being, they lack nothing. Whether they take on the form of gods in the world of form or in the world of no form, they are able to attain perfection in their physical and material well-being. World-honored one, what was your underlying intention in this explanation?" The Buddha answered the Bodhisattva Manjushri and said, "Good son, the august sustaining power of the doctrine of Tathagatas and Bodhisattvas, whether in preaching the path or the practice of that path, is capable in all places of leading sentient beings to obtain perfection in their physical and material well-being. As appropriate, they preach this path and this practice. Those who are able to, and actually do, correctly cultivate this path and this practice will never lack for such perfection of their physical and material well-being. But for sentient beings who turn away from and reject this path and practice, and harbor thoughts of bitterness or anger, the physical and material resources they may have had will dwindle after their lives are over. You should understand from this not only that the august Tathagatas and Bodhisattvas bring about physical and material well-being, but also how the dwindling of the body and riches comes about for sentient beings." The Bodhisattva Manjushri addressed the Buddha and said, "World-honored one, in all the defiled lands and in all pure lands, what are those things easy to find? What are those things difficult to find?" The Buddha answered the Bodhisattva Manjushri and said, "Good son, in defiled lands there are 8 things easy to find and 2 difficult to find. The 8 are heretics, suffering sentient beings, the differences in the rising and falling of houses of high lineage in the world, the doing of evil actions, the breaking of discipline, evil destinies, and shallow commitment. The 2 things difficult to find are the implementation by bodhisattvas of a high commitment and effort, and the appearance of a Tathagata in the world. Manjushri, understand that the case is exactly opposite in Pure Lands." At that time, the Bodhisattva Manjushri addressed the Buddha and said, "World-honored one, how should we designate this doctrinal teaching on explicating mysteries? How should we revere it?" The Buddha answered the Bodhisattva Manjushri and said, "Good son, this teaching is designated the explicit teaching on the action of the Tathagata, and you should revere it as such." When this explicit teaching on the duty accomplishment of the Tathagata was preached in the Great Assembly, some 75,000 great bodhisattvas all realized the perfected Dharma body.